Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about vertebrates. This is our second lesson for the week, so the first video at the top of the class page is what you should watch first. Then do the quizzes to get some background knowledge, to show me your background knowledge, really. And then you're going to watch this, do the CK12 lesson, and do the ed puzzle for the end of the week. So if you're not in the right spot, pause, do what you need to do, come on back to me. All right, so fish are the earliest true vertebrates. We said in our last lesson that all vertebrates are members of kingdom Animalia and phylum Chordata. The first members of phylum Chordata were animals that had some traits similar to vertebrates but did not actually have a backbone. Those are tunicates and lancelets are the two groups that are not vertebrates but are technically also chordates. You'll see them mentioned a tiny bit in the CK12 lesson. Don't worry about them, just know that inside one phylum Chordata, there's a couple misfits, and then inside that is where all the vertebrates are. Okay. The chordates that we study will all be vertebrates. So the earliest vertebrates that came along after those tunicates and lancelets that were testing out some phylum Chordata without actually having a spine, then you have fish, then amphibians, then reptiles, birds, and mammals. And when we say fish, we mean both sharks, who have a skeleton made of cartilage, and bony fish, who have skeletons made of hard bones more like ours. Okay, so when you see fish mentioned, unless it says bony fish, include all the sharks in what you're hearing about fish. Reptiles, birds, and mammals have more complicated evolutionary relationships. We'll get into that later, but they came after the amphibians, which came after the fish. All right, for about a minute, you're going to pop into a video about vertebrate characteristics in phylum Chordata. Then you're going to pop back to me. So here you go.
Chordates. The phylum Chordata includes fish, birds, mammals, and so on. Chordates are animals classified in the animal kingdom, and they also contain something very important that makes them unique, a backbone. The phylum Chordata include all of the animals we are typically familiar with, such as snakes, horses, birds, etc. Chordates can also usually be called vertebrates for the fact that they both develop a type of backbone at some point in their lives. Chordates can swim, walk, and fly. They have a notochord, which is a tube developing in the mesoderm of an embryo, as you can see here. This ultimately delivers the axial support for the animal, or the backbone. Fish, birds, and mammals also all share the fact that they have bilateral symmetry. They are triploblastic, meaning they have 3 germ layers in their early development. They are cephalized, or head-centered, and have complex organ systems, including circulatory, excretory, and respiratory systems. We delve into further depth of the characteristics of chordates in other videos.
So the spine, also called the vertebral column, is a super important part of vertebrates. It's what gives them their name, and it's what gives their bodies their structure. The notochord, the dorsal hollow nerve cord, run through this vertebral column. So in vertebrates, the nerve cord that carries signals to and from the brain is protected by the bony spine. It also helps to coordinate movement and structure for the body. Here we're looking at a view from above of a vertebra. So this is a slice of the back, and if you were looking at it from the top down. So here's the main body of the vertebra. Okay, here's where the nerves come out. And there's the spinal cord. That's the nerve cord running through the spine. And these bony pieces called processes coming off the end. Now, if we look at it from the side, all the vertebrae stack up together. This is a view from the lumbar, the lower back section. And so there will be lots of vertebrae in a long chain making up the spine. Okay, you can see where the spinal cord that carries nerve signals runs through it. The nerves come out on the left and right of the body, and those little processes are sticking out. Okay, there are also these discs. If you've ever heard people complain about back pain being related to discs being out of place, these are those discs, and what they do is they hold each bony part separate and provide a cushion in between them. So when you're moving, particularly movement up and down, um, they don't crash against each other and feel painful. So that's really important for the spine working the way it's supposed to in vertebrates. Vertebrates have an endoskeleton, so not just that spinal cord, but lots of other bones there. Now, an endoskeleton is a support structure that's inside the body, being made of bones or, in sharks, cartilage. That's opposite of an exoskeleton. We saw things like a lot of the arthropods, right? They have exoskeletons. They had a support structure on the outside of their body, their hard covering, and inside was soft like an insect. In vertebrates, they're all going to have endoskeletons. So inside the body, you see the same, some similar parts of a skeleton from one to the next. Okay. Some of those parts include the cranium, where the head goes, okay, which holds the brain. The vertebral column, you see that spine, right, in each of these animals. And then you see limb girdles are what hold limbs in place. So there's one pelvic limb girdle for a frog. For a human, that's called our pelvis. Okay, for the dog. And so those are going to hold the limb bones in place. All right, let's take a look at some of the systems. I'm going to use this frog or toad body as an example. So the skeletal systems we just looked at, you also are going to have muscles, right, which will attach to the bones and to the nerves that run up and down the spinal cord will flow out to touch each of those muscles and control them. You have a digestive system, similar to the digestive systems of a lot of animals that we already studied. We have some kind of body covering, a skin, right? Since they don't have an exoskeleton, they have a skin on the outside. So on a frog or a toad, that skin is going to pretty much just be a skin, a slightly moist skin layer. Many other vertebrates have a covering of some kind over that skin. So in fish, they'd be covered with scales. In reptiles, scales, mammals, fur or hair, birds, feathers, right? So there might be a covering on top of that skin. You also have certain things in common, like a closed circulatory system. These blood vessels, it looks like they're trailing off. They're just getting too small to see. They're tiny little vessels going to the hands and coming back. So blood is pumped by a heart and flows out through arteries and back through veins. Together we call arteries and veins just blood vessels in general. So the heart pumps, the blood moves through the blood vessels and then comes back to the heart to get pumped again. And the details of that system might vary from one vertebrate to another, but they all have a closed system. The blood is always kept inside blood vessels. Okay. Some other systems they have are the immune system, protecting from different kinds of pathogens. You've probably heard a lot about immune systems lately regarding COVID-19. People who have a weakened immune system are more likely to get sicker and to have a hard time recovering when they get this particular coronavirus. The same thing is true of lots of viruses and bacteria infections. Your immune system is what helps you fight off anything that tries to invade your body. And all vertebrates have similar immune systems. Also the nervous system. So the brain, right, processes information from sense organs. So things like your eyes are sending signals to your brain to understand what's happening. Then your brain sends signals back to the muscles throughout your body to be able to do things in response. So those are some of the systems you'll see in a vertebrate. You're going to get a little bit more detail about these vertebrates in the CK12 lesson that I have for you. You're going to read that and answer the practice questions. Make sure you hit turn in. If you've done some work, but you don't think you hit turn in, or you don't see a score come up in your grade book after a day or two, maybe make an appointment with me towards the end of the week or shoot me an email. Just make sure that you're turning things in correctly, okay? I know there's a couple different new systems that we're using. Also, there's going to be a little lesson about one type of vertebrate. You can guess from my picture here what kind it might be towards the end of the week in Ed Puzzle. Okay, so in Ed Puzzle, you watch the video and questions just pop up as you go. Just answer each question best you can, and you're done, and you get the points. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a wonderful week.